Welcome to this episode of Success Matters, Stepping Out of the Box. In today's episode, we have the privilege of sitting down with the incredible Vinita Ramtri, a woman of many roles, each adding a unique layer to her fascinating journey. Vinita isn't just a mother, she's a force of nature, a dedicated coach, a banking executive, and an advocate for embracing change. Vinita's story is one that will undoubtedly resonate with anyone who has ever dared to challenge societal norms and expectations. Hailing from a traditional Indian family background, Vinita made the bold decision to step out of the confining box that had been carved out for her, and instead she embarked on a journey to live life on her own terms. In this riveting conversation, we'll delve deep into Vinita's experience, struggles, and triumphs. We'll explore how she managed to balance the responsibilities of motherhood while pursuing her professional aspirations. We'll gain insight into the pivotal moments that led her to become a beacon of empowerment for others who seek to break free from the constraints of convention. Vinita, thank you very much for joining Success Matters podcast. I'm really glad to have you here. I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite some time. And you seem to have so many plates spinning all at the same time, which is why I was really keen to talk to you and have you on my podcast series. So you're a mother, you're a financer, you're a coach, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, you do so many different things. How do you fit it all in?
I think, first of all, thanks, Sanjay. The main... a lot of people ask me, how do you fit it all in? A lot of people ask, when do you sleep? Do you ever sleep?
Yeah, that was the thought that went through my mind.
That is, I didn't even, I don't even realize I give that impression. It's some of that, self-awareness that sometimes we don't realize how we're projecting ourselves. But I so easily carry on with my life that I don't notice these things.
Right.
And maybe that is the part about, one is observing versus the doing. Mm-hmm. Because I'm so engrossed in the doing that none of these things occur to me. It doesn't occur to me that, 1 minute ago I was talking on a topic and now I'm entrenched in a completely different thing because I am that entrenched.
Right.
I live in that flow state a lot of my time. A lot of times you will find I'm sitting in a train, I'm writing a post and I miss my stop because that's just the sort of lifestyle I've created for myself. It is very easy to me, but actually for someone else, it is very intricate and very complex.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think as you were just talking there, I was wondering, okay, I get in the flow of certain things, but then I get to a point where I need to just stop and recharge and, sit wallow in front of the television or whatever it is. How do you balance that of being in the flow of doing things and then also having the recharge time?
I think that is a great point. And there are probably two aspects there. One, I was called to a TV show, Davina McCall's TV show, about 3 or 4 years ago. They said, how do you not get stressed? How do you do all these things? And why aren't you getting stressed?
Uh-huh.
So they did my cortisol analysis for 2 days. And they analyzed my cortisol levels and what they figured through that. And I was back on the TV show where the psychologists and, doctors kind of analyzed the results. And they said that my cortisol levels are double the normal.
Okay.
So what happens is, I think normally, as they showed the graph, was we wake up at around 20 and then we taper down to about 5 by the end of the day. And in my graph, it came that I wake up at about 40 and then I taper down to about 10 by the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
But another sort of anomaly in that was that while the other participants had spikes when they were stimulated by external events like traffic or, they have to make a presentation and suddenly the stress levels go up and down, I didn't have a lot of those. What essentially means, as I was explained, was I have a high energy level. So to your point of, how do I come out of that flow state? I go on for much longer before I want to come out of that flow state.
Right.
And two, because the external stimulus has no impact on me, you could tell me the train has come to somewhere and I'm not bothered, I'm not aware, I'm just in my little bubble.
Yeah.
The other one is, how do I actually recharge? Is that I don't even come to that point where I'm now ready to recharge because I have 2 children, as you mentioned. So they naturally themselves immerse those recharge points. So I'm still in flow state and suddenly you have the doorbell ringing, the Amazon parcel is coming, and then there's a bunny rabbit, Or there'll be, my son needs food. So I'm always just like, okay, what do you need to eat? And if you see, my cooking is so minimalistic. It's just like there's protein, there's carbs. And it's like, how Mark Zuckerberg dresses and, Steve Jobs kind of dress sense where everything was repetitive.
Yeah.
Kitchen is like that.
Right.
It is chicken breast or steak. You eat if you want, go to McDonald's.
Which is it tonight? Chicken breast or steak? Which one is it going to be?
Steak tonight. It's steak tonight.
Okay.
Like, well, you see what I mean? It's planned to the T in that sense to say this is it, and we don't need to digress, deviate. If we need to deviate, Uber Eats is always there.
So then when it comes to doing something maybe a bit spontaneous or out of the norm, how does that fit into your cycle?
I'm very happy with that. So probably the flow states are more spontaneous, or I crave for those timings, which is why I wake up really early, because I know that in the day there's fewer things I can control. There are more things that will be out of my control, like your point of spontaneity.
Yeah.
Now in the morning, imagine your 4:30 to the 6:30 slot, or 4:30 to sometimes even 8 o'clock slot if I'm lucky. If it's a weekend, children don't wake up, I get till 10 o'clock. I'm so happy.
Right.
So, that window is my very precious window.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's no emails, there's no human being, which is probably, I'm saying it in a bad way, but I'm single and I'm very, very happy to be single because I don't have to do all of this morning stuff of, breakfast, tea, all that. I don't have no capacity for it. And I love that me time. In the day, to your point of breaking that cycle, I'm spontaneous because I know it's going to happen.
Okay.
Friday, suddenly we want to go watch this Bollywood, the Rocky or Rani movie. And then, okay, fine, we're going. So I know that, okay, I still diarize everything. So I'm OCD about my diary's not at all got white spaces. So it's fully like saying, okay, 5:30, just, 10:30 to 11:30, we did podcasts. So it will be like that. So I will block out that full 5-ish hours saying Cineworld with the kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I know, okay, during this time, I'm mentally parked my brain.
Yes.
And then even if they ask me, what's the capital of India, I'll look at them. I'll just be like, because I don't know. You know what I mean? Because then I'm in an alternate state where I'm not thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. How has this always been the way you are, or did you learn it along the way?
I think it was the state I was originally when I was born, and I can relate to it. But then there was a lot of peer pressure of, shadi karni hai, you have to learn how to cook, you have to make your in-laws, have to make your in-laws will be happy. So I constantly got a lot of comments growing up. How will she adjust? How will she compromise? Because how, ye to 2 din mein ladke aa jayegi. Like constantly I would get a lot of, you don't know how to cook, you don't know this. So because I take on challenges, I took it as a challenge on myself to say, I will make it happen and I will show you I can make it happen.
Okay.
So I made it happen. And I was married for 17 years when I thought, why the hell am I just changing my entire self for this world? Right. But then I came back to my normal self. And I said, okay, I've ticked every single box you wanted me to tick. I got married, I got a good job, I have 2 children, whatever, ho gaya, now fine. Now can I get my life back?
That must be was that difficult to be able to say to like your former husband and your family and your in-laws that, no, I need to get my life back?
Yeah, it was difficult, of course. I mean, you can imagine, because if you meet people when you're in the compromise mode, if I call it, saying, okay, I'm going to make this happen. You imagine that this is the person you meet and that person. But suddenly when that person goes, well, no, I'm not I want to go back to who I genuinely am.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fit in, but this is not so much me. It's not like I'm being fake, but I'm trying too hard to fit in. And I no longer feel happy about all of this. So yeah, it is difficult when you break it to everyone else. It is like, it's a bit like coming out, saying, well, I'm no longer the person that you think I am, and I want to go back to who I want to be.
Yeah.
But over time, they adjust, they understand, I imagine. So it was difficult at the start. You can imagine, Sindhi family.
Right.
Married at 23. Like, what are we talking? No, we weren't expected to work. And all of these things. So when you start to break 1 or 2 norms, I've understood these things, Sanjay, is that when you keep up with it, everyone expects you to keep up with everything.
Okay.
Yeah. When you're
the cultural norms that we have.
Yeah. When you're playing the game, it's like, okay, she plays the game, so she plays it really well. So you are, like if you're a good hostess, you host a good meal, they expect your next meal to be great because that's So you set that pattern.
Right.
Now, if I've set that pattern of I'm going to defy, or I'm going to challenge everything, or I'm going to do things my way, then that has become the expectation. So, so gradually, it starts to become, my mom will call me and she'll say, oh, today's Raksha Bandhan. And I'm sure you didn't even notice. So can you just make sure the children tie Rakhi, please?
Yeah.
But was that I was on notice it. My friend called me on the 6th of August and she says, Happy Friends Day, Vinita. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize. And she said, yeah, I knew you will not realize, but I thought I should still phone you. There's no expectation anymore.
Yeah. So you grew up in typical sort of Indian family, sort of the cultural norms where you get educated, but you'll get married, you'll go and have a happy ever after life with your husband, but that wasn't you.
Sindhi husband in Dubai. Is it?
Okay, a rich Sindhi husband in Dubai, and that. So you were living in Dubai when you were
No, we're living in India, but generally a lot of the women, if you imagine,
okay,
there's a lot of Sindhi
expectation level.
Yeah. You usually end up in Dubai or the US, really.
Right.
Since it used to be in that time. I'm not saying it for here now, but in my family at that time, that was the norm.
Okay. So you followed the path that was being suggested to you, but you always knew that wasn't really you, as you said. You were having to compromise.
Yeah, even there, essentially, I did break the pattern a bit, not too much, but I didn't go for the arranged marriage.
Okay.
The normal would be you get an arranged marriage, but I fell in love with this person, the one who I married. We were in college together.
Right.
And then we got on and we got married pretty early, But essentially, it was the same community, so it didn't cause any drama.
Yes, that would have been even more challenging for being someone else from a different community or caste, even, right? In some cases, people are pretty still strict about their caste as well.
Yeah, my parents are generally sweet, but I think a lot of the pressure I took on myself, because you just hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to disappoint
your
parents or your community, and you go, well, that's what everyone does, so this is what you should do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we box ourselves in, right, as a result of what we see around us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that we should.
There's no need. I mean, in fact, now I've completely, like I say, it's one of these things where once you walked out of the box, then you see the box.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't see it, right? You think this is the world.
Correct. Yes.
So a bit like my son says, he's seen, I think in Andrew Tate or something, The Matrix, right? When you're living in the Matrix, you're living in the Matrix.
Yeah, that's true. So you, talking of kind of change a movie, you grew up in India, you moved to the UK, is that correct? And then you moved to Singapore recently.
Yeah, quite a few more stops before that. So I grew up in Africa. I was born in India, grew up in Africa and Liberia, and Spain partially, went back to India, got married, moved to Scotland, moved to London. Then I went to Singapore for 1 year last year. So, and I came back a few months ago. Yeah.
So Liberia was because your family had a business or out there?
My dad was working there. He worked with a private firm, but he was he was employed there.
Right. Okay. And how long were you in Liberia for?
7 years. 83 to 90, and then in 1990 there was a military coup.
Okay.
So we all had to basically evacuate.
Right. So how was the contrast for your life between how it was in India to how it was in Liberia, and then having gone back to India, then coming to Scotland, which is a fair difference, at least in the weather, if nothing else. What were those contrasts like?
I think the contrast, if you're making me think about it, the thing was, from India to Liberia, it was a huge contrast. But then you had a lot of the family support, or call it pressure, because we were these vegetarian kids, my sister and I. And then suddenly you go there, you had the chicken farms and whatever else, and you're eating, hummus and stuff which you've never eaten. You're a dal rice kid, what do you understand? Hummus and tabbouleh, like you just like, I don't want to eat that. And then you just have to stretch and accept and be like everyone else, because you're not going to carry your dal rice everywhere. So you just start to become this person who adapts. And then from becoming all of that, then suddenly you go back to India where it's like, oh, forget all of that. You are the dal rice kid. Right. So if you could watch it with something, the dal rice kid. I think by the end of, all of these movements, you develop like this sort of odd mix, in my view, I would say, is that you know exactly who you are. So even I know if at home I'm sitting alone, I will order a samosa chaat. Like I want my samosa chaat or pani puri. You know what I mean? Well, I'm happy to go anywhere, eat anything.
Mhm.
Then I will never carry anything anywhere because then you just become like you have to go with the flow. So Scotland, if it's cold, you get on with the cold. Jaipur, you go it's hot, you get on with it. So you stop whinging, moaning, complaining. You just get with it.
And so then with regards to Singapore, which is your most recent journey, you actually moved there for work, right, from London to Singapore, and then
We
made the
left my
decision.
work to go to Singapore, the reverse.
Oh, okay, you left your work to go to Singapore, okay. And was that because you wanted to experience a different lifestyle, different city? What was the reason for leaving work to go to Singapore?
It's crazy, but I was working with HSBC till 20, till the year last year, right, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of during COVID, I had seen my son throughout, at home, home studying, homeschooling, not really know about him because I've traveled so much. And he was born in Scotland, grew up in London. So I thought he's not really seen much of the world.
Right.
He's 14, and I, as you see as a parent, by 16, they have lives of their own.
Hmm.
So I thought if I want to show him the world and get him more exposure, more perspective, saying this is not just, I play football, I'm this kid, just see more in life as, coming from what I thought I could pass on to him to give him that bit more resilience.
Right.
So I thought, okay, we'll just go somewhere else. And I said, go to a boarding school in India. And he said, I'm not going to a boarding school. Doon, Sanar, I tried all of those, Mayo. I looked up all those applications, but he was not interested. Then I said, okay, then let's do Singapore. So I actually quit HSBC to get the job in Singapore. So then in Singapore was the role with the consulting company Delta Capital. So I took on that role primarily, and which is why right now I'm between jobs because I don't want to continue with consulting. I want to go back to banks.
Right.
And therefore, I'm now shifting into saying, okay, I took that consulting to get that exposure. Now I no longer need that Singapore work permit, work pass, whatever. Now I've got the room to decide what job I want to do. And so I'm taking that time. So I went there. A lot of people think I went for work, but it's the reverse.
Right. So it was to broaden, primarily for your son to be able to broaden his experience and his horizons. Okay.
And he hated it.
Oh, okay.
So that was the learning from my part as well, right? Because you can say you're going to give your child something, but your child might not like it.
Yes.
Or people say, well, your child will learn to appreciate what his mom did for him. Now, the point is appreciation is something else. He says, I appreciate it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's the two different things. So I can't force a child. And a lot of people even said, oh, just, hire some counselors and, just leave them to deal with it. And I just can't do that, right? So I said, no, we'll just go back. So the year finished on the 8th of June and we flew back on the 8th of June.
Right. Okay. All right. And what was the primary purpose, or I suppose, what was it that he was not so sure about with Singapore versus his life in London? Was it just like homesickness for London?
I think he tried to get me to get into the head of a teenage boy. But I think it was homesickness, most of it. So they hear, he's got his sister at home. His dad is still in London with me. Then his friends, who he's very close to. So everything in his life is about his friends. And I thought he will make new friends. So while he did make new friends to sustain, true bonds are here. So the moment he arrived on the 8th of June, I think he was gone. He said, I'm going out. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going. And then he ran away. And I've never seen that in the whole year in Singapore. So he went to play football, he went wherever. So I think, but even the growth has still come in him. Like, although I wanted to do it for 2 years and we did it for 1 year, but you can still see the change. The paradigm shift happens and, you still learn. So the appreciation for the day-to-day things is completely different now. And the making new friends, even if it's locally, to going, like, suddenly he's joined boxing and, so he's just doing so much more. And I'm like, okay, that's a fantastic change.
So to take the analogy you gave earlier, you stepped out of the box so you could see the box, and or for him at least, he could see the box that he'd stepped out of, which was London. And now he's recognizes what he's got out of London. So he's had maybe a different perspective to London, right, that he had from before.
Yeah, I mean, he always loved it. He still loves it. But I think he's just this more relaxed, and I don't know, he's just enjoying everything so much more.
Yeah. And as you said, I was asking you to get into the head of a teenage boy. I mean, you're multi-talented, but maybe that's one aspect that is not possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, to really get the most of a place, you have to give it a chance.
Yes.
But also because Singapore and UK time difference is so much. So on the weekends, he was staying up all night talking to his friends here.
Mm-hmm.
So by the Saturday morning, he's not awake till 2 o'clock or whatever. So half the day is gone. So you're not giving the place, like I told you, like what we've learned is to give the place its full fair chance. If you're going to pack your dal chawal from everywhere, how are you going to enjoy the restaurant?
Yeah.
So it's that if you're going to always still stick to what you're leaving behind, you're not seeing what's in front of you. He did it partially. We did a lot of things. We went to a lot of countries around there and everything. But the point is just that fine balance because of the time zones as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They have to be, but maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but willing to leave behind what you've left behind so that you can take advantage of what you've now got in front of you.
Right. Correct.
Mm. Okay.
That's an art, or it's a personal philosophy as well, right? To some, it's like we should be willing to. To some, it will be like, no, that is where my bonds are. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a right or a wrong to it. So it's for me to accept that is what it is, and that's totally fine. That's what some people want to do is, those are my core friends. I want to talk to my friend.
Yes.
Even if it's 2 a.m., I will talk to my friends. That's fine.
So we've kind of covered a number of things here. One of the aspects that I wanted to talk about was your coaching. How long have you been coaching, and how did you find your way into coaching?
Wow, that's I think, frankly, in a lot of ways, the teaching aspect of me. So when you're asking, is this come naturally? A teaching aspect of me, I know my mom, or even I have visions of this when I was 4 years old or something. I used to line up empty chairs and teach. So I used to just collect all the chairs from the house and, teach them even A, B, C, D. I still remember. And my mom was like, where is she? She's sitting in the room talking to the chairs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I had that probably at some point.
Did you put any toys on the chairs, or it was just the chairs?
No, we were not so rich. I didn't have toys.
Okay, all right. So just the chairs.
So, but the thing was that as I grew up, and I took this role, in school, I was a debater, so I used to debate a lot. So,
Right.
Just putting logic together, putting thought together, structuring your argument, all of that came quite naturally, or it was my interest. Mm-hmm. Then, as I joined my first job my second job after hotels in WNS, where I was a training and development person.
Right.
So I was a coach. I designed a lot of courses on coaching. I read a lot of the books, the Grow Model and whatever else. Created a lot of courses, trained a lot of coaches. So I've been doing it since I would say about 2000 in a lot of forms, like would be coaching individuals, but also group coaching for people to become team leaders, managers, all of that. And then gradually, now I almost, then even when I joined Sky, I was like the internal coach. Or Lean Six Sigma and, helping people to do the yellow belt projects. And I used to train them, take them away for 2 days, train them all on continuous improvement. A lot of it has always been in the back end of my career.
Right.
And then more actively as an individual to go out and, actively go out and coach people, probably maybe the last 3-ish years. And because my jobs have been completely different to that, right? So then it's become not a part of my job. Although as a CEO or whatever, you're coaching people, but also you're the manager in many scenarios.
Yes.
So we'll find balance. But pure coaching relationship, I've got quite a few now, and then I'm doing more of it right now also because I'm not working at the moment.
So it's been part of your career already, right? And the background to your career. Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
then, I keep upgrading or changing the certifications over time as I study. So right now, I did my EMCC, which is European Mentoring and Coaching Council.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a senior practitioner there or something, but I did that during COVID. So, I keep doing whatever I think is the right thing to, right networks to attend. And right now, I just organized an event in London. I thought, okay, let me just get a few people together.
Right.
So do a bit of a group coaching. So our brain's always just thinking, what else could we be doing?
All right. Yes. Yeah. It's in that flow, right? You're always in that flow.
Yeah.
That's great. So, as you know, the podcast series is called Success Matters, and as part of my objective really with regards to this podcast is to hear from different people with different experiences on what success means to them. So what does success mean to you, Vinita?
Success to me is having the freedom to do what you want to do.
Okay.
That's about it. Like if I want to wake up and say I want to sleep again for the rest of the day and I can do it, that's success. Or if I want to just be in flow state entire day, I can do it. Yeah, good.
Right. Okay. And so what sort of structures do you need to put in place to make sure that you have that freedom?
The first is financial freedom. Because I think Shah Rukh Khan says this, art and all is good, but when you're worried about paying the bills, the art is not going to work. Like you have to first get the bills out of the way.
Yeah.
And you can truly do something for the sake of itself, for its own sake, right? So financial freedom is probably first. Second is the boundaries that you set with your people close to you.
Right.
Because if whoever is meeting me, whoever is not meeting me, if they know, okay, Saturday, Sunday, she's out, she's not talking to anyone, then that's the freedom. And yeah, I think those are basically it. And the third probably being the ecosystem. Because success, when you're trying to have that freedom, but you're constrained by things in the ecosystem, having a good computer, having a good device, having good lighting, just your entire setup, I think that makes a huge difference.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because having the structures of things around you, whether it's, I don't know, some vehicle to take you from A to B, if that's part of what you want as part of your success, that's an important part. Or as you say, having the right sort of laptop. If you're into design and art, you need to have the right sort of laptop to be able to do that these days and that sort of thing. So yeah, I hadn't really thought of that aspect. So thank you for sharing that.
It's cool. I think sometimes we take that for granted because we have it. But when you see people who just don't have it and who are struggling,
yes,
you realize that's a big, big blessing.
Yes, that's right. One of my previous guests, actually, she is setting up an orphanage in Nigeria. And so it was quite interesting talking to her because her world and my world are so different that they difficult to make that connection as a result of that because of the difference in the world. So what you say about we often take things for granted. Yeah, we make assumptions because things are all around us. Whereas for those that don't have it around you, they're desperate for even just the smallest bit that can help them towards their success and their goal.
Yeah. And I might sound privileged here, but in Singapore, I had a massive condo with just my son and me. So when I woke up, I could take a whole room to myself and just work and not worry about the TV, the sound, anything.
Yeah.
London, we are 3 people and a bunny rabbit in a 2-bedroom. So, can you please get out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the differences.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I always ask a previous guest to ask a question for my next guest. My previous guest asked,
the question is, what's your passion?
What's your passion?
What's my passion? My passion is learning and then assimilating all my new learning with all my previous learning to then make sense of it.
Okay.
And that's almost like an infinity circle that I can keep doing for as long as I'm alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what do you do with it once you've made sense of it?
I write, I coach, I create. So there's the input that triangulates with the previously known info.
Yeah.
To create new output. And that cycle sort of is what is my passion. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. So you're learning things, you're processing them, and then you're creating things like your blogs that you're writing, or the books that you've written, or the courses that you've written. Again, the list is quite long of the things that you do as a result of doing that.
But yeah, it is that quest and that curiosity. That's my passion. Right. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, that's cool. And do you have a question for my next guest?
Yeah, the question for your next guest would be that if money was not a matter, what would you like to spend the rest of your life doing?
Okay, that's cool. What would your answer be to that?
My answer? exactly what I just said, what my passion is. So I will be doing that. But if money was not a matter, I would also be traveling a lot while doing that.
Yeah.
I'd probably list out all the places I want to go to, starting from like one end to the other end of the planet, or like it's round, I get it. So
Yeah.
going around was a straight line. But I'll probably just mark out saying, can you cover this, this. Not like a bucket list, more of like a just exploration while I'm doing the learning.
Right. Okay. And so you're combining both the sort of, if you like, the one sort of better way of putting it, the academic learning with the experiential learning by traveling.
Yeah. I mean, if I had enough time to, let's say, think about it, I would say, okay, I want to meet people from every nationality, or I want to see, every kind of, every kind of species. I don't know, like just a lot of different things I might try to do.
I saw a statistic recently which said that every language spoken in the world, I'm not sure if this is a real statistic or not, but you'll find at least one speaker of one of those languages around the world in London. So maybe being in London, you'll be able to find people from all around the world like that.
Exactly. So it could be exactly as you said, the travel could be more just seeing more type of, human lives, human stories. Yeah. And that's something that I would really enjoy doing.
Okay.
If someone's ready to fund me, then please.
Yeah. Yeah, if money were no object, indeed. So we're reaching the top of our time today, Vinita. Thank you very much for sharing your story. And certainly the passion that you have there, it resonates very much with me. I'm very similar to you in that regard. I like to learn a lot of things and read a lot of things, but maybe my output isn't as prolific as yours with the blogs and everything else that you do. If people want to get in touch with you to find out more or to get some coaching from you, what's the best channels for them to get in touch?
I think the best is my website, vinitaramtri.com, or LinkedIn is also fine. So both of the two are there.
Thank you once again for your time, Vinita. It's been a great conversation. It's flowed very quickly. There's not been any moments where I've thought, okay, what's the next topic A to B of the conversation? So I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
I have. I mean, it was brilliant. Exactly as you said, I didn't realize my time. So it's a great for preparation on your part as well. But it's been thoroughly enjoyable. If you fancy catching up, if you're around Canary Wharf at any point, then just let's grab some coffee.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. If you'd like to find out more about how you can find your success, contact me at info@successmatterscoaching.com. That's info@successmatterscoaching.com.